Hi everyone, it's Gwen from Rustic Diva Design, and I have a tutorial for you today. I'm going to show you how to construct an album cover using the lay flat cover method. So all the albums that I have been doing for the last, I don't know, it's over a year now, I believe. This is the only way I make my covers now, is this lay flat cover method. This method was designed by Tamra at Country Craft Creations. So if you follow Country Craft Creations on YouTube and follow some of the tutorials, you'll see that this cover method is the one that she uses all the time as well. I don't even remember how to make covers the old way anymore, because this is the one I stick to, and once you do it several times, it just comes natural to you and you remember, and you don't have to go back through your notes. So I'm at that point now. So this cover method will work for any size album up to, because you're using 12 by 12 cardstock to cover your album or your chipboard. So up to, like, you could 6 by 6, 5.5 by 7, 8 by 8, 10 by 10, but that's pretty large of an album. So your basic album, this cover method will work for any size album that you're making. So I'm going to be making another baby album, so I thought, well, before I construct the cover, let me show you guys how it works, because I haven't done that yet in my tutorials and some people have asked for it. So I'm going to show you how. So I'm going to be making an album that is 5.5 by 7.5 with a 1.5 inch spine. Okay, so I already have my cover pieces cut out of my chipboard here. So this is the front and the back cover, and then the spine. Okay, once you do that, once you determine your album size, you cut out your chipboard, and then you're going to cover your chipboard pieces with score tape, which I've already done, and you'll see why in a minute. So all my pieces are already covered just to save time, so that we can get through this a little bit quicker. But okay, so the album cover itself, as far as the whatever color cardstock you're using, and I'm also going to recommend that you use a nice heavyweight cardstock for your covers, so that you don't have any tearing, and you know, when you fold it, you want your folds to be nice and crisp. I use the artisan cardstock from Country Craft Creations. I'll link their website in this video, so that you can shop around there for that if you'd like. So this is the white cardstock, white artisan cardstock from Country Craft Creations, and that's what I'm going to be using to cover my album. So let's get started. So again, I have a 5.5 by 7.5 album with a 1.5 inch spine. So here's what you need to know about the cardstock measurements to cover your chipboard pieces. So we're going to start with the spine, and I usually start with the spine. This is going to be 3 inches wider on the sides and 2 inches higher from top to bottom. So add 3 inches to the width and 2 inches to the height when you're measuring your cardstock for a spine. So for a 1.5 inch spine, my cardstock measures 4.5 by 9.5 for this album size. Okay, so what we're going to do, this is going to be obviously your spine, and it's also going to be your hinge, and you'll see that as we get going along here. I'm going to apologize in advance for my wiggly table. Sorry about that. I got a new table, and I'm just not happy about how things are going here. Okay, so back to this. What we want to do is 1.5 inches on each side to cover the spine, and then 1 inch on the top. Also, here are some spacers. These are spacers that you can buy at Country Craft Creations. They're Sometimes they're out of stock, so I haven't checked. I don't know if they're in stock right now, but these spacers are absolutely wonderful. Otherwise, if you don't have the spacers, you can make some out of chipboard, which I used to do before I bought these. So there's a 1.5, and there's also a 1 inch, and I think it comes in a set of 3. Man, it's been a long time. I don't remember. So I have mine marked. Obviously, you can tell the difference, but I'm just showing you this. This actually peels off. This backing peels off. I just left it on there. I don't need to take it off. So when you're adding your chipboard to your cardstock, you're going to put it, first of all, you're going to put your paper in your scoreboard right up to the edge and the top, and then you're going to lay down your either your chipboard, your 1 inch chipboard goes at the top, and the 1.5 goes on the side, okay? And this is your guide to where you're gonna put your chipboard. So before I take the backing off, the score tape, I'm just gonna show you that this is gonna line up like this, at the top and at the side, and we're gonna just glue it down this way, and then it'll be perfectly measured for what you need on your paper. So let me just get this going here. Right, score tape, backing, and the side. It's always a bugger for me. I don't know why, but it is. Some people use a little pick. I don't have that. So I'm just lining these up, and I'm just holding these in place while I put this on here, from on the top and on the side. And then you just press it down, move these out of the way, and ta-da! There it is. That's what you need, okay? So just make sure that's tacked down really well with your tool. I'm losing my words today. What am I saying? What is this called? Come on. We say this 100 times in our videos when we're making tutorials. What is this called? We're burnishing. There we go. Okay. Okay, so get that well burnished. And then what I like to do is go over on the other side and just kind of get those creases in there, because we're going to fold this paper. So I'm just working the paper around my chipboard before I fold it. Again, I'm so sorry. I'm wiggling. I'm sorry about that. Okay, and I'm going to put my mat back on my scoreboard so that it's easier here. Flat surface. Okay, so once your spine is adhered, we're going to fold the paper around the chipboard like so. And then we're going to crease it down. And then, because this is going to be our hinge, we're going to fold it the other way again. So we're just working that paper to give us a good hinge here. Okay? And then the same thing for the other side. Fold and burnish. And then folding this back. Like so. And then to, you know, you got your little bumps here. I just go here with my, what is this? What is this today? Oh my gosh. You know, get the creases out. Just push those down so that you have a nice clean edge against your spine piece here. Okay, and then we're just going to fold the ends. And we don't have to worry about the creases on the ends. And we're not going to fold this back because we're going to do some cutting. This has nothing to do with, the ends have nothing to do with the hinge or adhering it to the covers. So we're just folding these so that we can cover the spine. Okay? I still can't think of what this is called. Isn't this, oh my gosh, I am losing it. Losing it. So I'm just pressing these down. And wherever my scissors are. Okay. Now, there's a couple different ways. People that use this method cut differently. I've tried it different ways, and I guess, you know, I'll just tell you what I'm doing. So I'm going to cut out these two. Boy, I'm trying to get you to see the score lines. Here we go. So I'm going to cut these two squares out here on each side of the end, okay? And I'm cutting cutting out the score line, and I'm just cutting up to where it meets the chipboard, okay? And I gotta do that a little bit better. Or not, or not. And then you're just cutting this out. Right up to there. Okay, and same for the other side. And this side. I get so fussy with my cuts, with my lines, which we should be careful. Okay. If you don't get it exactly, it'll come. Okay, and then this side, same thing. We're just cutting out these two squares. Are they squares or rectangles? I don't know, but you know what I mean. You know what I'm saying. If I can get my scissors in there, back to where it needs to be. Just cutting up to that score line so we can cut this out. I get in there and then I don't get it all the way to the corner. I'm so afraid of going past my score line that I just like, oh, there. And then this side. This is, to me, this is little tedious cutting here, so I know it's like quiet. Maybe I just can't do two things, talk and cut at the same time. Okay, so here's what you should have left. This is garbage. We don't need these. So what we're gonna do is we are going to fold these in and glue them down, okay? So you just take your little glue bottle. I'm gonna set that there. Remind me if I lose it, where it is. I'm so good at losing my pin. And I'm just putting some glue against the edge of the chipboard to work that paper. And then I'm using my tool that I can't think of what it's called today, and I'm gonna get glue on it first, because that's, you know, always what happens. And just pressing that up against the chipboard first to work that paper, and then you're just folding it down and gluing it. And we'll give it a burnish. If you have a little glue, that'll happen, that's okay. And then same for the other side. I'm getting to the end of my glue here, so we gotta use every last drop, can't waste it. And press that down and glue. Okay, there you have it. It's covered. See this little bit here that's sticking out? It doesn't matter. It's totally fine. I'm gonna get a paper towel here because I got some glue here. Okay, we're just covering this, the ends. Now we're gonna miter these corners just a little bit so that your paper's not showing when you put it down. So we're just gonna miter, right? Put your scissors right to that score line and just miter and flip it over and do it again. And then the same thing on the end to the score line, my scissors, just butt it up to that and just cut that off. Okay, ta-da. Here is your hinge piece for your spine. So we can let that be now. Just smoothing these out. And then you can also smooth out your edges like that. Okay, so our spine piece has been covered. I'm gonna put my pin back in my glue so that my glue bottle cooperates while we're doing this. And now let's do the two covers, the front and the back. If I can get organized here. So this is the cover piece. So we need a piece of cardstock for a 5.5 by a 7.5 cover. Your cardstock to cover these is 7.5 by 9.5. So we're putting this at the 7.5 inch side at the top. Okay, and then we only need 1 inch on each side. And I forgot my other, I forgot it. It's upstairs. I might have to guess. I should go get it. Can you hang on? I'm so sorry. I don't know how to edit. I'm going to be right back with my tool. Okay, I'm coming. I am so sorry. Okay, here's the other one. So there's two 1 inch pieces. So either you have the spacers or you can make one of these out of your chipboard, which I had done before. So in the scoreboard, I always put this down first, this one, and then this one on the side. Make sure your paper is butted up on your scoreboard. And then we have our cover already covered with score tape. And I use score tape sheets, obviously. You can see for this. I'm on a lot of breath because I ran upstairs, sorry. So we're just peeling that back. And then we're just holding these two down for good measure. And then we're just lining these up. And press it down. So now we have the 1 inch on the sides and on each end. And then we are going to make sure that's stuck down really well. And let's do the other one since we have this all together. Same size paper, white cardstock, each spacer. Remove your backing for your score tape. Like so. And again, lining these up. And down. And that's all there is to it for this part. Okay, we can get these out of the way because we don't need them anymore. finish this just a bit before I put my scoreboard back together. Okay, now that you have your chipboard covers on your cardstock, we're just making sure that these are stuck down really well. So again, I'm going around, just making sure, and then I'm just going over and giving this just a little crease where the paper is going to fold, just working that paper just a bit, not too hard, just to tell it where it wants to, where I want it to fold. And like so. Okay, so start folding. We're going to fold this in. And these we do not have to fold back like we did with the spine, because these are just going to get glued down. And then the ends. And this end. Okay, now that you have them all folded, we're going to cut out each corner of, and there's little squares here. I'm trying to get it so you can see the lines. Oh, I'm trying. There we are. We're going to just cut these squares out, okay? And it doesn't matter where you start. I'm going to start right here. Just cutting right outside the score line up to the chipboard and cutting out the square. And then you turn it and do this side. And turn. And cut. So the baby album that I just showed you in my last video, that also has the lay flat cover method. I should have grabbed it. But you know, I don't want to roll back upstairs again and leave you hanging. I wish I knew how to edit. I just don't. And I don't even know if I want to learn. I'm just know I'm sorry about forgetting things and making you wait. I don't mean to. Okay, so we have all of our squares cut out. Now we're going to miter each end. So to do that, I fold in this long side so that it's easier to get to. And again, you're just butting your scissors up and mitering these corners. We're just getting rid of this excess paper to avoid all the bulk when we're folding and gluing. And then to do the other side, you just flip it over, fold the paper in, and then I have a little thingy there. Same thing. Make sure to get all the sides. I did that once. I started gluing and I said, uh-oh, forgot one. Okay, so this is what we have to work with now. Just getting my mess out of the way. So now we're just gonna glue these sides down. Start with this side. use your tool. I'm at a loss what this is. Whoops. And that happens to me a lot. I slip. Okay, and then we're just gonna glue this down. Bone folder. Here we are. Oh my gosh. Yay, you guys are probably so annoyed with me. It's a bone folder. It's a bone folder. Is that what you've been telling me this whole time? I would be. I'd be talking to my screen. It's like you talk to the TV sometimes when you're watching a show. It's like, why'd you do that? I do that. My husband laughs at me. He's like, oh, I don't talk to the TV. I'm like, well, it just comes out sometimes. Then I'm just getting those squared off the edge, and then I'm going to turn it and do this side again, or this, the longer side. Thanks for putting up with me today. If you're still here, ooh, I appreciate that, because I could have lost somebody right away with all my forgetfulness. Just working that glue up against the chipboard here first, and then folding this down. All right, just a little excess, just wipe that off. Make sure it's tacked down well, and just run this over quick. Okay, and now the end. So if you're following along, this is what we're doing. If you're not following along, I should say, I know this gluing and whatnot gets boring and tedious. Just getting all that down good. Spreading that glue around under there. And then square those off, and then one more. I'm a messy crafter. I don't know if anybody else is like me, but I get glue on my hands, I get glue on the table, I get glue on my tools. Oh, my glue bottle tips over like 17 times while I'm doing something. Isn't that how it's supposed to be though? Aren't we all supposed to have that? Nothing that goes perfectly. I wish it would. And square that off. Okay, here we are. One cover, all done. Okay, let's do the next one. So again, we're just making sure this is stuck down well. And on the other side. And then just going to the edge of that chipboard, running my bone folder along the edge just to work the paper so I know it knows where to fold nicely. Not everybody that does this method, I think, does it just a little bit differently. You know, and if you try this and you find that you can do something else that works just as well, go for it. Once I get the cover done, like, you know, you're thinking about making an album and how many pages and how do you want your pages, and you're designing your pages, and then you're like, oh, okay, yay, now I have an idea, and then you have to make the cover. I feel like this is the most tedious part of the project is getting the cover put together. But it has to be done, so we do it. Okay, again, we're gonna cut the squares out. Just right outside that score line there, just to get rid of the bulk of your fold. Right to the chipboard. And sometimes you gotta cut it a little extra because you didn't cut it right the first time. Oh, it's gonna come off. There we go. And then turn. So once I get the cover finished, you know, when I got a project in my head, it's such a relief because now I'm like, oh, okay, now let's move on to the fun stuff. I got all my papers picked out. Everything else that goes with it. If I have papers that I want to mat with, I pick those out. The one thing, unless something really jumps out at me when I am making an album, I always design my cover last. And some people are horrified by that because they're like, oh, that's the first thing you see, and I get that. But like I said, if there's something in the paper collection that really stands out to me, I didn't cut this exactly how I wanted it, then I will save it and put it aside. But most of the time, the cover is the last thing that I decorate on my albums because I normally have no idea. This didn't go very good for me, did it? I'm going to leave that just like that for a second, okay? Don't do what I do. Just cut it out right the first time. The cover design to me is like, you have so many things in your paper collections, usually I do, that something is going to come together, plus you have items in your stash that probably work well together too. It's going to work out if you don't plan your cover right away, and usually for me it works out every time just fine. So that's why I save it for last. To me, the cover takes so long to think about what I'm going to do unless I have a plan right away. I stopped worrying so much about that I just save it for last and say, okay, now what do I have left? And what can we put together? And what can we use for scraps? And do I have flowers and enamel dots and all those things I can add? And sure enough, it all comes together just fine. I wish I could be more like, oh, this is what I want on the cover, like every time. Nah, I think that's happened to me like once or twice. Okay, we got all of our cuts. And now we just gotta glue. Oh, I forgot to put the pin in my glue. Oh, we're gonna cooperate, yay. You don't need a ton of glue. It doesn't have to be thick with glue. You're just making sure it's going to stay where you want it on the chipboard. I got some glue running out here, but that's all right. We'll fix it. Some poking out there. We'll get that off, just so we don't have a mess. And turning that over. So I'm working, I said I have, this album is going to be a baby album. I'm going to, well, my plan is to do a tutorial on this next album that I'm making, because excuse me, some configuration pages in this one, like, you know, I talked about with my baby album in my last video that Michelle Allen does, all these configuration pages. I'm not as good at it as she is, trust me, not at all. And it all depends on the size of your album and how big your pages are, or what size your pages are, in order to make it work, you know, because you're trying to use your 12 by 12 sheet of cardstock for your page with less waste, I guess, is the way to put it. And then, you know, and less cutting and all that stuff. So I came up with a couple things for this album that I'm gonna make. And hopefully it works. I did a practice, you know, you get your practice paper out and get going on it, so you don't use all your good cardstock for practice and throw it in the garbage. Yeah, I don't like to do that. This stuff costs too much for me to do that. So use the practice paper. And I'll show you all that when I get this album put together. Hopefully it works. If it doesn't, well, we do something else. Okay, we are covered. Okay, I don't remember if I did all these sides, but I'm just going to go around. Okay, so we have our front and back cover and our spine piece. Hold on one second. Okay, now we're going to put this together. So again, this is our spine, and these are our hinges right here. So I'm just putting my pin in my glue for now, for the moment. So we need, because they're obviously both the same size, it doesn't matter which one you use first. So this is this is your spine piece. We're gonna flip it over so that only the cardstock is showing, the white cardstock, because this is gonna be glued to the inside of your cover. So when you glue it, it's gonna look like this, okay? So this is how I do it. If you want to do it a different way, you certainly can. I use my folds as a guide. Some people use the scoreboard as a guide. I've tried to do that several times, and I just feel like I do better this way using the fold, okay? So what I'm doing, and please do a dry fit before you start gluing. Okay, so I'm using my fold here as a guide to make sure that it's straight. The cover is going to be glued on straight. And I'm just you're not smashing it up to this spine piece. You're butting it up gently to the spine piece, okay? So to do this, we're going to add glue. Not quite to the fold, because you don't want glue squirting out all over the place when you put this together, okay? And you don't want to, I know this glue dries clear, but sometimes it squirts and I don't want to see it, okay? So I'm just making sure that I get some good coverage here. Not too thick, just, you know, So I have like 1/8 of an inch gap with the glue in the spine. Okay, so I'm going to use this again as my guide. I'm putting this on, and you have a little bit of time to work with your art glitter glue because it's wet. And just making sure everything is straight. And when you're happy with where everything is placed, glue it down. Push that baby down good. Okay? And I like to hold it just for a little bit. And then flip it over carefully and then burnish it to get that glue all spread out on here. Okay, so we have one cover. Now we're going to do the other one. I just turn it so that I can use my hinge, my fold, as a guide for the second cover. So again, I am dry fitting first. That looks good. I can work with that. So glue. Not quite to that fold. Sorry, I know this is, but I want to get it right because this is my cover for my baby album. So I'm going to, again, just get that fold in there so I can see, and I'm lining this up. Come on now, be good. Do you talk to your projects like I do? Oh man, does it help? Sometimes. Just moving this a hair. And you can see, perfect. There we go. Push it down. Get that stuck on there really well. And then flip it over and give it a burnish. Okay, I got a little bit of a line there. And ta-da! Here's our cover. So I'm just gonna let this sit here for a minute while I show you, because I want that glue to bind. And I forgot my clips. Again, I'm not running back upstairs. I told myself to bring them to the tutorial area, but of course I forgot. So usually I clip the tops here and the bottoms just to let it bind for a little bit before I start folding, and I'm just going to show you carefully that now you have a cover. Okay, here's your cover, and then this is what it looks like. See, I want this to glue good right here, so I'm just going to pinch it for a minute because I want it to look nice. Give it a pinch. That's what the clips were for that I forgot. So hold that in here, even if we have to, whoops, go back and give it another little burnish. It's okay. I'm going to do that this way. Okay, so once that's dry, there we are. Isn't that nice? And then it's easy to work with once you're putting all the pages and stuff in the inside. And then when you're using, or when your pages are in and you're decorating the covers, you know, this is going to lay nice and flat for you while you're decorating the outside. Okay, so again, let's let this dry for a second. And it can sit right here because I'm going to show you. Now we have to cover our inside spine, just to give it more, what do you call it? Just protect it more, give it a little bit more, so it's sturdier. There we go. That's a good word. Okay, so all it is a piece of cardstock, the same cardstock that you use for your cover, and it's just going to be large enough to cover like this. Do you see that little bit of space? You can, if you want, use the same measurements as your spine piece, which this was 4.5 by 9.5. But then remember, we folded, so I should just say the width 4.5 if you want it. I like to overlap, and I like to have just a little bit of an edge on mine, just as a guide, because I put this down, I just eyeball it. So I want this little bit to, you know, cover the edge, over the edges of the hinge and the inside. Does that make sense? Am I babbling? I'm so sorry. So you can see what I mean here. Okay, so this piece, if I have a 5.5 by 7.5 inch album, the inside spine cardstock cover is 4 3/4 by 7 3/8, because we want, you know, you're not going up all the way to the top of your album or the bottom of your album. It's just a little gap there, which if you've made albums, you know that. So I am just gonna, and I've already, see, covered this, covered with score tape, and I used some bits and pieces. I had scraps, so I always save my scraps of score tape, because you never know when you need a little piece. It's gonna work. And I got some stuff on mine. Okay. And I got a little overlap here, so I'm just folding that in. Excuse me. And here. I try to cut these so nice, but again, when I'm cutting my score tape, I'm always afraid I'm going to cut my paper, cut my chipboard. Okay, now that we have that, sorry. Okay, so I'm just, like I said, I'm eyeballing this top to bottom, side to side. Sorry, I can see this now. It has to get, you know, push that in, just your little extra overhang there. And I'm just going to leave a little bit on each side. And sorry, I just bumped the camera with my head. This takes me a minute sometimes, because I try to get it just right, and I usually don't. But as long as your inside hinges are covered, you're good. So I'm just looking top to bottom here and side to side, making sure that it's even. And once you get it to where you want it, we're gonna glue it down. No going back now. That's what I say when I cut things too. The first cut, that's it. No changing your mind. That's what it's gonna be. So this is going to reinforce our spine. I have a little bit of, it's glue from my score tape. I can see it. But that's okay, because I'll be able to fix that. I'm not going to get so worried about that while I'm showing you how to make this. So I'm just gluing or burnishing this down, because we want to be able to fold now nicely. So get into your folds. And the reason why we use score tape on this piece of cardstock to cover the spine is because it doesn't bubble. It lays nice and flat, so that you don't have all this bubbling on your spine piece. And it's gonna fold nice for you. So I am just slowly working this, pressing down as I try to fold here, working that paper carefully. And sometimes if I just go a little bit and then go to the other side before I do the complete fold, because what I'm really wanting is to make sure that glue is really sticking. There's my fold. Here we are. Okay. Working that. Working that paper. Okay. And then I'm going to go back to this side. I know this looks so tedious, but this is how I do it, because I want to make sure that everything looks good and it's not going to fall apart. You know, we don't want to fall apart, want it to fall apart, all this hard work we do. Okay, so just working that paper. Get this going here a little bit. There we go. What's happening right now is because I haven't used the heaviest of chipboard for this project. Usually when I make a larger album, I'll use a heavier chipboard. And this time I didn't, because I'm trying to use up things that I have. And so this album is only going to be 3 pages. And so for this project, this little bit lighter weight chipboard is going to be just fine. It's not going to fall apart. It's not going to tear. It's just a lighter. It's not as heavy. Now you can see when you fold, until you get everything the way it needs to be, that it doesn't look straight, but it's fine. Okay, so I'm just working these gently so that they fold nicely. Okay, and make sure everything is still put together, looks good. Okay, and there's your cover. One cover with the lay flat cover method. And you know, once you work this more, it's going to fold easier, but I'm just being gentle with mine because it's, you know, fresh. Is that a word for an album? It's fresh with the glue. Okay, that's it. So we have the two covers, the spine and the chipboard. I'm sorry, the solid cardstock for the covers and the spine, and the inside piece that reinforces the spine. Okay, so again, this is a 5.5 by 7.5 inch album with a 1.5 inch spine. This is going to hold 3 pages. And once I get my album completed, I will show you, and my plan is to do a tutorial because I have different page layouts. So again, the lay flat cover method, designed by Tamra at Country Craft Creations. I will link the website below. You can check and see if these spacers are available and any of the artisan cardstock. That'll be on the website also. So there you go. If you have any questions, if I missed anything, because sometimes I get rambling and I lose track of my thoughts and it happens. So if you have a question, please comment, ask me in the comments. I'll try to get to you in a timely manner. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, I would appreciate that, so that you can follow me for more projects, tips, walkthroughs, all kinds of stuff. And as always, thanks for watching.